And thank you, Sam. As you can imagine, last week was just an incredible week. And I think we're still celebrating. But as promised, we have yet another major announcement for St. Louis City SC. And that is, we have hired our club's sporting director, Lutz Pfannenstiel. He's coming directly from the Bundesliga with more than 30 years of international experience in professional soccer as a player, coach, and director. We are confident Lutz's experience and global lens make him a perfect fit to help us build a best-in-class sporting structure that will ensure this team further energizes the spirit of St. Louis. Lutz will play a major role in establishing the team's soccer operations, including creating the organizational structure on the sporting side, recruiting and hiring the best-in-class sporting staff, and building a diverse and inclusive youth team structure to recruit local, national, and international talent. St. Louis's soccer history runs deep, and we are so proud to have Lutz on board to help us build upon our city's rich foundation and move it forward into the future. So now I'd like to introduce Lutz Pfannenstiel, who can give more details on his vision for building St. Louis City SC.
Thank you, Caroline. First of all, I want to say that I'm really honored and excited to be here. I want to say thank you to Caroline and the ownership group to give me this very special and amazing opportunity. Yesterday, after the news broke, I got lots of messages mostly from Europe, of course, also from a few friends over here, and they were asking me, why St. Louis, why the US, why the MLS? And well, after I decided to leave Fortuna Düsseldorf in March, saying that I'm leaving by the end of the season, a few European clubs reached out to me, and trust me, it was quite a difficult decision to leave one of the biggest European leagues and go somewhere else. But after I spoke to St. Louis, after Caroline and the ownership group told me about their vision, their goals, also about the ideas they have with the club, you know, I somehow have to say it made click in my head, and that was the place I really wanted to be. And yeah, I'm definitely very, very excited to finally made it over into the States. Two things I want to emphasize a little bit and go into deeper details. First of all, well, I mean, for me, which really caught my eye was it's a club where we're starting on a completely blank piece of paper. We're starting from scratch. So to really put in your own ideas, create the DNA of the club, create their own playing philosophy, to build a standout academy, which I think we'll talk a bit after, was the things which I really wanted to do. You know, I was for 8 years in Hoffenheim, which was a bit of a similar situation than here. There was a lot of new things were built, and it also was really, really exciting. So I have a really good feeling, and I'm very confident that we can build something special here. Secondly, well, when Caroline and the ownership told me about their vision, and one of the things which was for me very important was, she said, we want to work with the community and within the community. Diversity and inclusion were words which really impressed me, because I did lots of my football also when I was for FIFA and the German FA in countries where it was not so easy just to become a professional footballer, and that was something where I really can say that it caught my eye. It made me very interested, and I want to go a little bit into the idea which we created together. I mean, moving our MLS kickoff to 2023 gives us obviously a little bit more time to focus on the academy, to focus on talent development. St. Louis is very famous, even in Europe, when you talk about soccer in the States, that high school football, university football, the region here is famous and very well known for having talents. So homegrown talent will play a big part in the club's philosophy. And our aim is to really find also a few unpolished gems, not just in St. Louis and the surrounding, also in the county, also in the state, and also in the neighboring states. So we really want to have an excessive scouting process where we're going out there and trying to find the right players for us. Obviously, priority one will be St. Louis and the surrounding. We want to give kids from all neighborhoods the possibility to be part of St. Louis City SC. Pay to play is something which we don't want to go in, regardless where you come from, regardless who you are, you can show your skills, you can be part of it, and that is something which we really want to focus on. Well, it won't stop there, because I think we are a club which wants to work and want to be involved in the community. So we want to unite the area, and we want to have, well, we all know that soccer connects people, and I think this is a very unique opportunity to put everybody together on the same page. Of course, furthermore, as I mentioned, we want to go out in the whole state of Missouri, into the bordering states, scout talent, which also can be part of this academy. Well, another point I want to focus on is that we all aware that not every young good footballer, not every young talented soccer player will make it to be a professional. But there's one thing which we really want to put out there and guarantee to the people. Our players will not just be trained to be good soccer players, to be good athletes. I think our boys, they also should be educated. They should grow into personalities, personal development, values, behavior, a code of honor. It's often things which are talked about, but they're not really followed. And I think this is what we really want to focus on, and we want to be very different. Yeah, looking at my CV, it's a little bit long as a player. So I played all over the world, and of course we also want to have that global and international approach on the long term when it comes to the MLS in 2023. But for now, it's more building a foundation. The foundation must be the homegrown talents. The foundation must be the players here in St. Louis. That's what we want to focus on, and I think everybody's excited. So let's go and start.
So with that, we will go ahead and open it up for the Q&A. I'll say yes, if everyone within the program can just raise their hand, and I will call on people. So first, we're actually gonna pass it over. We'll allow quick fan question from one of our great supporters with the Hooligans, Matt Baker.
Hi, Lutz, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi, so I enjoyed your comments about prioritizing a lot of the homegrown talent. You've said that very consistently. Places like Hoffenheim, Dusseldorf, you've got a history of doing that. So coming to St. Louis and hearing that is exciting. And one of the most exciting things as a supporter is to see a really talented player develop through an academy system and then be able to wear that St. Louis crest in the kit without needing to go elsewhere. You know, we've just seen a lot of high-level talent go other places, Nashville, elsewhere within the MLS. And I'm really wondering if you can talk through how you envision the free-to-play academy system looking. Will it, some of the structures in that, will it align with the new MLS Youth League age groups? How soon are you looking to spin up the academy itself and some of those teams? And then when do you actually anticipate our first development squad taking the field?
Yeah, well, obviously right now it's very difficult to put a timeline because of the COVID situation. It's not easy to say we will have our first team on the pitch in that month or in that year. It's not easy to answer, but definitely, as you mentioned it right, homegrown talent is that what we focus on. So we want to make our talent base as big as possible, but first things first, and we need to start here in St. Louis with the area, city and county, and obviously in a smaller circle to get the first youth team onto the field. Our vision is that we're starting most likely with an under 15 team, under 16 team, only with one team first, and then gradually add more teams to the academy because we need to focus to really get straight away the top players. Our goal must be that when we kick off the season in 2023, that some of this first squad we will have in the MLS Academy will actually be in the squad of the MLS team when we kick off in 2023. That's a goal, that's a dream, that's a big aim, but I think this is what we have to aim for. And, I believe we can make some kids, some local boys, a dream come true, actually to become professional footballers. But we have to get the starting really, really properly off the deck. and that means a good scouting system to give everybody opportunity, to have a very good coaching education. And once we have all that in place, I think we will have a very decent first under 15, under 16 team on the field, which you can work very continuously on it, and then slowly introduce other age groups as well. That it will be probably, when the MLS kicks off in 2023, we will have our full academy set up as well.
Next, we will go to Tom Schwarz.
Thanks, Sam. Guten Tag, Lutz. Thomas Schwarz here. It's STL United Soccer Sunday. We're on KFNS 590 The Fan. And very excited to have another German on board. I don't know if you're familiar with the history of St. Louis and soccer made in Germany. It was a TV program with Toby Charles that ran here for a number of years and was required viewing for almost every guy I knew. My question is about your book. And if I read your book, would I understand more completely your vision for STL City?
If you read my book, I think you find out a lot about my history and a lot about footballing cultures from all over the world. I think if you want to find out more about the vision is about how we want to play football, then it will be more focused on, I will call it, the way the academy system was built up, for example, in Leipzig or as well as in Hoffenheim. We want to play an attractive, attacking-minded football. We want to play a football which gets people into the stadium. Especially in the development, it's not always about results. It's getting the first step right. It's getting the coaches right. It's getting to get a structure on the field. That the vision must be we playing from our youngest age group up to the professional team. We want to play the same philosophy, the same DNA, and that should be like a modern pressing football, nothing crazy. Also really like passing the ball around. So I'm not really a big fan of any kind of long ball and pure pressing system. So in the end of the day, it will be a nice mix of a few things. But if you watch the way Julian Nagelsmann plays football now in Leipzig, then this is how my vision would be modern football should look like.
Can I ask another question? You spent quite a bit of time broadcasting, and I'm curious, what did you learn about the sport while you were calling games on TV?
It's a good question, actually, quite a lot, because you see the game on a complete different angle. And I think it was for me, I actually used my broadcasting when I did live games, especially at the World Cup, as well as Champions League, but also most interesting in under 17 and under 20 youth World Cups. You get a different vision of the game because you see so many things differently when you do it for a proper channel, when you have many different angles during the game. And also to talk about the game, to actually get your mind going that quick to read situations the right way. It helped me a lot to learn about the game because in the end of the day, I was a goalkeeper. I always saw everything from behind, which you see a lot, but obviously not everything. And broadcasting gave me a different kind of look onto the field, a little bit of a different look. Also the way you prepare for it gives you lots of information, and it helped me actually a lot to learn about the game.
Well, I want to welcome you to Missouri, and if you ever get homesick for Germany, what I found in my trips to Germany, that a lot of Missouri reminds me very much of Germany. Get out of the city, take a drive, and get out into the green hills, and you'll feel at home. Thank you so much, and welcome to St. Louis.
Good time. All right. We'll go next then to Stanislav Shoot. Sorry about that.
Sorry, hi, Stanislav Schupp. Go Germany and Spox, nice to meet you. You mentioned a lot that there are some similarities between RB Leipzig, Hoffenheim, and St. Louis. What would you consider the major difference between those clubs, or let's say between your former clubs, being Hoffenheim and Düsseldorf, and now the new project?
Yeah, the major difference is that we're starting here literally at zero. We're just about to build a stadium. We are now in the planning of a training center, and we're starting off as the first youth team. Even, for example, in Hoffenheim, the club became professional at a certain stage. There was a little bit of setup was there. So I think it's a challenge, but it's also, I would say, a beautiful challenge and an important challenge to get, I would call it an academy going, which the foundation is right. And I think this was also done in the clubs you just mentioned. And I don't think we should copy clubs, but of course it's very important to get some influences. I mean, obviously I will not run that club on the sports side by myself. There will be a few more people will come, will help me, will support me, and they also will have their influences, and that's how we want to actually create our way of play. I think you also can't compare the MLS to the Bundesliga. It's a different football. It's a I would call it not as physical as the Bundesliga, maybe not as fast as the Bundesliga, but that's the way. If you watched MLS is back and you looked at 2-3 teams, the way they played football, for example, LAFC, then I would say, well, the MLS goes in such a good direction. They start to play such competitive football, looking 3-4 years ahead with the World Cup approaching also in the United States. I think the MLS will definitely grow. I personally will see that the MLS is outside Europe the most exciting league. And once the World Cup approaches, I believe the MLS will be able to have similar levels as some of the European leagues. Obviously not as the top 4, but everything below is a realistic aim also where you can settle the United States.
Thanks.
Go ahead. Go to Patrick Scherer.
Do you hear me now? Yes, okay. Hi, Lutz. Patrick Scherer from Germany calling, from Düsseldorf actually, Rheinische Post newspaper. First of all, congratulations to your new job, and perhaps you could tell one more time what was the main factor for you going to the US and not to the Premier League or Serie A or even to Bundesliga, or haven't there been any offers from the Bundesliga?
Well, I was in touch with a few Bundesliga clubs, but there was nothing really concrete, because I think I decided quite early that I want to go abroad again, and I mentioned it. I think even in your newspaper I mentioned it that I want to go abroad. Of course, when you talk and when you get interest from the Premier League and from Italy, then it's always something special, and yeah, I mean, it makes you happy. But for me, yeah, it was different things which really caught my eye. I mean, I believe the ownership's vision is just perfect to build something really special. You know, I mean, to have also now a little bit of time to create an academy, something where I was involved in Hoffenheim as well, and then up into the professional team. I think to get all these ideas you had, all the things you learned in the last 25 years, to put that on a piece of paper and actually try to put that into a new club. I think this is something really unique for me. It was one of the most exciting projects at the moment in the footballing world. And yeah, I mean, I really fell in love with the project. I wanted to do it, and for me it was clear I will come over here once I spoke to the ownership and they gave me their vision. Yeah, as I said before, that was the moment when I said, that's it. I will make that step, go away from one of the biggest leagues, but go to a project where I really feel comfortable and confident we can really achieve great things.
So one more question I have to ask. So will we never see you again in Bundesliga, or is that you can't say that? Well,
I committed myself on a long-term deal here in St. Louis. So you know, I mean, if you build something from scratch, it takes some time. And I believe we also need to have a certain patience. You won't be able to see the big results within 6 months or 12 months. It all takes time, and obviously, in a way, I see myself as the sports architect of the club when it comes to the way of playing, and when it comes to the style of play, and to the DNA. So I see myself here for quite a long time, of course. And what's happening after, Patrick, you never know. Football is a very short-lived business, but right now my focus is completely on St. Louis, and I'm not really 1 second. I was not sure if I should do it or if an English club would be better. I'm 100% here with my mind, with my heart, and I'm just ready to rumble.
Okay, thank you very much and good luck.
Next, we'll go to Jürgen Kawa.
The host has muted me. Sorry. Something isn't working.
Jürgen, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. Thank you. I'm the U.S. sports correspondent for Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, a newspaper in Germany, and I've been following U.S. sports for many years. One of the most hard to understand observations is that American soccer has a huge foundation in terms of its the participation rate of young players. But when it comes to leading those young players to top-notch, world-class performances, the system doesn't seem to provide. So I guess that this is a good time for a person like Lutz Pfannenstiel to step in and help to bring it up. So first question is, does Mr. Pfannenstiel have any explanation for why this isn't working yet? And number two, does the performance of some of the younger players, mentioning Tyler Adams, for instance, in Leipzig right now, does it show that something has been beginning to change, or is this just a blip moment which cannot be read or interpreted?
No, thanks for the question. I think your way of looking at things are correct. I think this last transition from actually becoming a young professional was a little bit missing. If you're looking at the athletic education here in the States, then I think America is far ahead from Europe. I mean, when it comes to the pure athletic, but to bring that onto the field sometimes is not that visible. And I believe that 1 year, that transition time from getting out from the high school, becoming a young professional, that was always the major problem. So now with the new development system, the MLS put in actually to have this nationwide youth league starting, which will obviously also take some time, but I think this is clearly the right step. If I go back into Germany, I think you know that very well, the introduction of the Youth Bundesliga or the Youth Regionalliga, before it was not there and the level was much weaker. Once you get a more compact way of performance structure, I think just really worked out perfectly. And yes, the United States are such a big country, so you need to work with the conferences, but the way the MLS planned it now is really a very good idea. I think this is the right step in the future. And we just, I think, have to work on that transition from being a youngster, being a youth team player, to get into that first professional step. Second question, I'm with you. I don't believe that it's a coincidence. I mean, you mentioned Tyler Adams, but also looking at Weston McKennie or looking at Joe Sargent, who comes from St. Louis, looking at Zach Steffen, who I had in Düsseldorf. I mean, that's really players who have not just a talent, they are really, I would say, good Bundesliga players. Looking at the interest McKennie had from other clubs in England as well, then it shows that he is a big future. Tyler Adams, with that game against Atletico playing tonight again, I think he's now in the books. Everybody in Europe knows him and takes note of young American players. And I think there is many more out there. It's just the question is, lots of these boys going very early to Europe, sometimes even too early. And if they're going too late, what also happens, then many US players didn't make the cut anymore. So I think you just really have to find the right timing. But there is no doubt, I think, that the US and the MLS will produce in future also more players which will go to Germany and to other big European leagues. I think the style of play, the playing culture between the US and Germany really goes very well together. And I hope that we also can produce some players which not just will play their whole life in the MLS, but we actually can transfer them to Europe and make the dream they have even bigger.
May I add another question? Okay. I think it's a little early for something like this, but if you're successful, you might actually end up having the trouble to keep players if they are too good. Do you already kind of look ahead that far and say, okay, if I develop great talent, how can I keep it in St. Louis and so make the team and the club more successful and better? Or is that something you don't even think about right now?
Oh, it's something, of course, we have also in our mind, but I believe there is nothing wrong. I mean, if we develop players who create interest in Europe and in the biggest leagues, then this is something it just shows we would do great work. So, I mean, I would be upset if one of our top players would go to Austria or to Switzerland or one of the average European leagues, but if he would get transferred to one of the top four, that is something what we have to deal with, something we have to live with. And I mean, if the MLS keeps on developing like it is and it goes really steep up, then I think the chances to keep that players is possible. On the other hand, I think there is always the way players returning back home. I mean, I'm 100% sure that McKennie or also Josh, they will actually finish their career. Once they reach a certain age, they will finish their career over here in the MLS. So I think, yeah, there is always two sides to the medal, but if we can develop talent who also can get transferred to Europe, then it just would show that we're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Well, I have time for one last question, so we'll go to Alex.
Hi Lutz, can you hear me?
You.
Hi, from Lower Bavaria, from your home county. Congrats to your new job. And I have two questions. We've met, I think, 1 month ago, and at that time you had various options. And can you just describe what happened from that time to your final decision? And the second question, how did COVID-19 affect your travel to the US?
Yeah, let's start with the COVID question. Yeah, it was obviously quite complicated to travel because you know the embassies are not fully working, the flights are not fully working. But St. Louis City SC, they managed to get me an exception via the MLS to be able to travel over here. So how I came. Obviously, I was wearing a mask like you're supposed to do, and the plane was very empty. So there's not many passengers right now from Germany flying into the United States. Secondly, yeah, when we spoke, there was options on the table, but I mean, that was already when I also had my mind wrapped around St. Louis. And of course, you need to look at all the disadvantages and advantages. As I mentioned before, for me, I believe this is the best thing. I want to, you know, I'm 47 now, I think, yeah, 47. And I still consider myself as a younger sporting director, or at least not an old one. And I'm a bit like, you know, I wanted to do something, not go to a club where there is lots of structures. Meaning I probably would have not joined any other MLS club at this moment in time. St. Louis City has there, for me, the most unique setup you can find. This is where I would call it live your own dream by put all your experiences, all the knowledge in, develop a system together with the ownership to make something which wasn't here. And you have to consider that soccer here, you know, people in Europe who think about St. Louis, they think about hockey and they think about baseball, but well, it's so enthusiastic here. Soccer, people just absolutely love it. You know, it's a real soccer culture the SC in our crest not just stands for soccer club, but also for soccer capital, because the history of St. Louis soccer is amazing. And all these things together told me, Mr. Pfannenstiel, that is where you go.
Perfect. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Sorry, I know some other people have a few questions. I would say if anyone has any questions or anyone is looking for any media requests for Lutz or for Carolyn, feel free to reach out to myself. My email is sam@stlcitysc.com. So thank you all again for joining us this morning, and we'll talk to you soon.